A new ruling has been handed down regarding the loan limits that affect nurses and all kinds of other professions. We're going to go into exactly what this means today on the Earn a Podcast. All right, everybody. So, there's been a lot of things rapidly changing over the last couple of weeks. The headlines can be a little bit confusing to certain people, especially that don't follow it really closely. That's why you have me. So just to be clear right off the bat, no spoilers or nothing to wait. So spoiler alert, the court did not strike down the new loan limits themselves. Okay. The court blocked how the Department of Education defined which programs qualify for the higher loan limits. And that distinction is really important. What happened was, about the loan limits. That there was a very narrow definition and that excluded MSN, DNP, nurse practitioners, CRNAs, physician assistants, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech language pathology, public health, marriage and family therapy, and a lot of other sort of things, and it limited them to a $100,000 lifetime cap for federal loans, aka loans that are funded by other American taxpayers. But I digress. What exactly happened? Now, obviously, the fact that MSN, DNP, nurse practitioner, CRNA were limited here. And again, there's a lot of other podcast episodes that I've made regarding my opinion about this. But I do think that this ruling makes a lot of sense. So before I go into it, now, from the perspective and from the different arguments that were offered against the loan limits by nursing organizations specifically, at least the ones that they publicly blast out on the internet, I still do disagree with them. What I agree with on is that there does seem to be, it seems to be clear that the limiting of this by the Department of Education is the appropriate line of attack. It may not stick, but that's not the point. The point is that the sort of narrative that's been boasted around to kind of tick people off and to get them outraged, and the kinds of arguments that a lot of other organizations, nursing organizations, have been kind of championing online are really just focusing on all of the wrong things, and this ruling kind of proves this. And I'm going to go into that. So there was a coalition by a lot of different organizations, but it was led by the American Nurses Association and the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. I have not dove into the American Association of Nurses yet. However, the ANA is something that I have been doing a deep dive on. And it is something I'm actually having a guest on the 11th of July this year, 2026. I'm going to have somebody on that's much more qualified than I, much more experienced than I, much smarter than myself, to discuss some of the issues with nursing school as a whole, right? Along with the ANA. The ANA is a joke. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I don't think I've really said it on this podcast. The American Nurses Association is an absolute joke. I'm going to do an entire pseudo expose on this organization, and I'm going to do it on the accrediting bodies. I have mentioned how the accrediting bodies are probably holding nursing schools back in some way, or contributing to holding back nursing schools and causing really all of education is behind the times, but especially such an important profession such as nursing is really being held back by, accrediting bodies not really doing their jobs. So I've already dove really deep into ANA and two of the major accrediting bodies. And so I'm going to get into that in another episode. But enough about that. Let's talk about this. So a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction, and they agreed with the plaintiffs on a couple things and blocked the department's definition of a professional degree, the narrow definition. So again, what was blocked here was the definition and the Department of Education's method of narrowing the definition of a professional degree to be included in the bill. This is where the ruling came down. You notice the ANA argued different things. There's four main things here. One, Congress never intended to exclude nursing. Okay. So what you're saying is you know what the intentions were of Congress. That's just a silly argument to be made anyway. The department added requirements that are not found in the statute. Interesting. I haven't dove deep into the statute. I'm a nursing student and a future nurse. I am not a lawyer, nor will I probably ever be, so I don't care about that part. The rule would worsen the nursing shortage. No data to back that up whatsoever. Completely ridiculous argument. You're lucky that the federal judge didn't look at this alone and be like, you guys are a joke. That's a joke. Take it out whenever you argue this further. Students would be pushed toward expensive private loans or forced to leave school. No, this is also not the case. Again, I've shown the data is already out there. 95% do not borrow up to the loan limit. If 5% would be effective. And yeah, have them go take out expensive private loans, pay for it themselves, or they can leave the field if they want to pay an inordinate amount of money. That is their choice. It's your choice. Okay. I, a taxpayer, do not have to fund someone else's hopes and dreams all the time. Okay. If you want to go spend $200 on a degree that I can get for less than $100,000, that's on you. You can also make $20 an hour. If you can figure out how to lease a Porsche 911, I shouldn't have to subsidize your loan. Okay. That's basically what's happening here is people that can't afford a Porsche are getting a Porsche, and people like me that definitely can't afford a Porsche are helping to fund the loan that got you that car in the first place. But anyway, the ruling did not eliminate the loan caps. What happened is the judge stopped the Department of Education from excluding nursing and many other healthcare professions from the higher category, while this is important. If you don't know what a preliminary injunction is, I somehow do. I had to brush up on it a little, but this is while the lawsuits continue. It's basically like, hey, wait a second. Some damage could be being done right now, and we are going to stop the potential damage from being done while we decide if there is potential damage being done. Okay, this is really important. This is basically a big cover your ass move by the federal judge, and it might be appropriate. But again, the line of attack is going to be what gives you the right and, what gives you the legal capacity to define what a professional degree is and then put things in the bill, and maybe you didn't include things in the statute. So this will include MSN, DNP, nurse practitioner, almost 30 professional programs for purposes of higher education. Borrowing limits remain in effect while the injunction remains. So basically, temporarily, it's like nothing ever happened, right? Because it was set to take effect on July 1st, and this whole ruling went into effect, and the temporary preliminary injunction was granted just a few days before. So basically, right now, the same students, in these programs, CRNA, nurse practitioner, DNP, MSN. Again, PA was included in this too, which really that is understandable for a different reason that I'll talk about maybe in a second. But right now, it's as if nothing changed. So everybody should be kind of happy. But know that this is not permanent. This is a preliminary injunction, and that means that it's temporary just while the lawsuit proceeds. There are different things that could happen. One, the court could just permanently invalidate the department's definition. The department could issue a revised rule. In other words, they can say, okay, if you don't like what we wrote in the rule, we'll just fix the rule, and you could have the same outcome. Congress could pass legislation explicitly stating that graduate nursing programs are professional degrees. The appellate court could overturn the injunction. So this is, still up for appeal. This even the preliminary injunction can be overturned. So this could be very, very temporary. So here it is, folks. Temporarily, things are back the way they should. I think that what I'm glad about regarding this is that the line of attack for this could be, hey, did a governmental body overstep or do something wrong? In that case, just because the data backs up the loan limits for the degrees doesn't mean that it should be done, right? Just because I agree with it, or even a lot of people agree with it, and shoot, even because the data shows it, it doesn't mean necessarily that the governing bodies, the powers that be that made this happen, have the authority to do so, or that they did it correctly. And everything that is potentially done incorrectly, whether I disagree with it or agree with it, whether anybody agrees with it or disagrees with it, if there's any potential that anybody in any capacity overstepped in their authority level to do something that was not proper, should always be looked at 100% of the time. But stop with the BS arguments. It sounds foolish. Okay, so I just wanted to update everybody on what's kind of going on. Preliminary injunction. I will be posting more podcasts as this goes on. However, regarding a couple weeks from now or next week, I'm going to be having on a guest, Emily. I won't say last name or anything because this hasn't been recorded yet. I haven't interviewed this person yet, and so technically, as far as actual details, this person hasn't given me permission to put their PHI, so to speak, on my podcast and publish it. But I am having a guest on. They do have, their RN, their master's degree in something regarding nursing. I'm not going to give away too many details here, but we are going to go into the nitty-gritty of the ANA and nursing education. This person is a nursing an educator in the nursing field in a professional capacity, not a fake capacity like some people are. This person is 100% legit. Articles have been written about this individual. I have read up on this person, very impressed by this person. Not that really matters how impressed I am, but you look forward to that. The episode is going to be recorded on July 11th, and it might take me a day or two to kind of get everything processed and get everything published, but I'll probably try to do it by the end of that day. So again, July 11th or 12th, I would look forward to that. Also, deep dive on the ANA and two other accrediting bodies that I did a lot of deep dives on. So American Association of Colleges of Nursing is something I looked at. The Accreditation Commission for Education in Nursing, the ACEN. These are, so that and the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education, CCNE. So the ACEN, the CCNE, and the ANA. These are three organizations that I looked very closely at, and I'm going to be doing kind of a dedicated episode toward, who is it that makes up these I don't know if you can call them companies, organizations. How many people work there? How much money do these organizations make? Where do they get their money from? What could some of their motivations be based on where they get their money from? What is the history of some of these organizations? And I'll make sure to bring some of this stuff up with the guests that I'm going to have coming up here too, because I'm kind of curious what their thoughts are going to be. But it's going to be a little bit data intensive. But I'm going to try to keep it short, just like this episode. If you did like this episode, please go ahead and share it with everybody. Leave a comment for your suggestions, especially if you'd like to come on the podcast, have a quick conversation. Thanks so much for listening. Go out there and earn it.